Nana Ashoko will be gauging the Christmas mood. And as you know, I mean, my print and of course my designer is Ellis Couture, based in Site 3 of Community 1. And thank you for giving me all these good designs over the period. And you can always go to her handles, Ellis Couture on Facebook, Instagram, and get the latest as well. And let's say good morning to a number of you who are joining us. So we know that the district level election is coming up, and I have some good friends of mine who are participating. For all of you who are ardent viewers who are participating in the district level elections, you can send me on the streams where you are contesting, and then I'll try as much as possible to mention you in the course of the program. But Emmanuel Hans, Anania Kolo, you are one of the contestants. You're number 5 on the ballot sheet, Valco electoral area, Tema Community 12. I wish you all the best. Julius Avixin, as well as Charity. All of you are on the ballot sheet for the Ajay-Kojo electoral area in the Tema West constituency. I wish you all the best for the day. Riches Akotia also, Kokuti, good morning to you. Of Aluex, thank you for watching us as always. We want to take a look at some critical issues this morning. The former president has been going on a tour, making statement to the effect that he has the men to be able to turn around the economy. And is that the case? So we want to discuss that. Now, does it mean also we have to compare the records of his government or the men that the NDC have, and then the MPP, the performance of the economy, as well as all the relevant sectors? So we also have the men in the studio to help us do the discussions. Now, the second part also will take you to the United Kingdom, where we have hundreds of students who have not had their stipends in excess of over 9 months paid. Some even have balances of fees that the Scholarship Secretariat, operated by the government of Ghana, is supposed to have paid their institutions, and they haven't been paid. So some of them cannot take their transcript, their certificate after graduation. That's a big issue. And many of them are raising concerns that the Scholarship Secretariat, led by Kingsley Ajamani, who I know that is vying for the primaries for the MPP in Ibuakwa South, has had promised some time ago that will be paid these students and haven't been paid. So in the second part of the discussion, we'll try and take a look at that. Representing the government of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, I'll ask him whether he went to COP28. He should be, because he's a Minister of Energy, because the boss was there as well, and what the contention and the issues were. If you are following the issues about climate change and how we need to move into green energy, and then, of course, try to reduce our dependence on fossil fuel, you know that it is an event for everybody to take a look at. So he's also a member of parliament for the Second constituency, going again, and then also a deputy energy minister. Andre Japamesa is here. Good morning to you.
Good morning, my good friend. It's been a while. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas in advance to you as well. And then Eduji Tamaklo is the director for the legal directorate of the NDC. He's also a legal practitioner and already writing some. I can't see them from here, but I know that he's gearing up. Good morning to you, Eduji.
Good morning, and good morning to my senior, and good morning to your cherished viewers. As you are aware, today may just be our last visit before the Christmas. So it's only fair
and proper
that we use this platform to wish all our compatriots the best of the occasion, and to also wish friends who are contesting the assembly election tomorrow the very best of luck. Thank you. And
I would want to issue a disclaimer. So TV3 and Media General, 2 weeks ago, we had a discussion right here. Kofi Tonto, when we were discussing Ghana's list of 618, of course, made of not only state officials, but other officials of other parastatals, civil society, the private sector, etc., to COP28, raise an issue, an allegation to the effect that the former First Lady, Lordina Mahama, had in a bag $500,000 cash. We asked him incessantly to prove it or withdraw. He refused subsequently. But we want to categorically state that TV3 and Media General, we disassociate ourselves from the statement made by Kofi Tonto, a member of government's communication team, a spokesperson of government, on that allegation he made. And we in no way condone that without any proof at all. And again, we have to state categorically, TV3 and Media General, we disassociate ourselves from those allegations that Kofi Tonto, a member of government's communication team, made against the former First Lady, Lordina Mahama, that sometime, specific time, he didn't mention that period, that had $500,000 in cash in a bag, he did say, and was sharing wherever we don't know. Again, that disassociation and disclaimer has been issued right here. But let's begin the conversations, as also we acknowledge many of you right here. And what has been your highlight of COP28 so far? You were there, I believe.
Well, let me extend their greetings to our cherished viewers and to also wish them a Merry Christmas and a prosperous 2024, especially my constituents in Second-D. And to also wish my lovely daughter, Alison Renee, a happy birthday in advance. She turns 9 tomorrow. I may not be able to do media, so it will be good for her to, you know. It's interesting. Yes, I was at COP. I believe that climate reality, as I choose to call it, is there for all of us to see. And so nations of necessity gather year on year to plan, to strategize, to take stock, and to see what it is that we can do together collectively to achieve the net zero, which would then lead to keeping our climate temperatures below, or at least not beyond the 1.5 degrees Celsius that we've targeted for ourselves as a people. And so I believe that we, from the global south, are clear in our thinking that the transition ought to be just. We have essentially contributed less than 3% of global emissions. And so if our God-given natural resources are expected to be stranded, which the West, or the global north, if you like, have depended on for their development, especially in the area of the exploration and exploitation of hydrocarbon resources, then it's important that we are supported, if you like, to a very large extent, that our assets are not stranded. But we recognize that it's important that in doing so, we ought to contribute our quota. And so we will exploit our resources in a sustainable manner. That narrative is what has been accepted. And I believe that we all have pledged our commitment to transition. We in Ghana, we've done our energy transition framework. We actually launched our energy transition investment plan, which puts the cost of transitioning at in excess of some 500 billion. How we fund that is key. Okay, commitments that have been made by the global north have largely not been met. And so it's important that we ourselves find ways through the harnessing of our natural resources to fund part of our development and also our transition agenda. But I guess that the world is at Eden. That is important that we save the planet. We all ought to contribute our quota. And that, for me, was the learning that I took from COP. I participated in a couple of sessions, especially in the area of base load, where we're working to deploy nuclear energy into our energy mix. Our plan proposes a third hydro, third nuclear, and a third renewable, because renewables, we all know, is interruptible. And so you cannot depend on that. You know, of course, advancement in technology is evolving, and the expectation is that with time, we may be able to get some battery power that then enables you to drive some of your industrial activity through renewable energy. But for now, nuclear, which is a clean energy, and also hydro is what our focus is on too. And I participated in some program that was hosted by the US government to try and see how we scale up, especially small modular reactors across the world to ensure that we are able to transition to meet the targets that we've set for ourselves. But quick observation before you go. It was good that you issued a disclaimer. I particularly don't believe that throwing statements out there that cannot be
corroborated
or even proven is the way we should be engaging in our political discourse. But I'm only hoping that you be consistent, okay? Because many a time I've been on this show that things have been said, but you don't get that kind of response that you've forcefully put out this morning. I commend you for that, but I'm only urging you to be consistent so that the narrative around our politicking would increasingly be reformed for the benefit of all of us. Yeah.
So I think it's important that on this issue. Let me start from here. First of all, it is not as though TV3 decided on their own volition to do this.
Okay.
The lawyers of the former First Lady.
There was demanded of them.
Yes,
to,
the lawyers wrote to TV3.
But even without the lawyers, I think that
I
he
just
did
want
in
you
itself,
to
he
know
hadn't
that.
put that fact
What
out.
I just want
so I'm
you
not
to
aware,
know that.
But I'm saying that
the
even
lawyers,
if TV3 on your own volition was doing it, it would be the right thing to do.
Upon the statement on this platform, took steps to write to the show. And the show humbly have done what is right. In fact, when I heard my friend Kofi made a statement, I knew he was going to find himself into trouble because it never happened. But that's because, you see, the thing is that you can't move that kind of money to the UK and go scot-free. There'll be records. There'll be police records. There'll be immigration records. And so it's good. You have done so well in putting the matter to rest. And I congratulate you for that. But you see, I find it curious on this COP23 thing.
28.
Sorry, 28, sorry. I noticed that the Minister of Energy was there. And his two deputies were equally there. Mm-hmm. What was it for?
What's wrong with that? They are responsible for different portfolios.
In fact, if you permit me, just for the benefit of our viewers, I believe COP was a 12 or 14-day event. And so necessarily all of us couldn't go at the same time. Okay. And so
the minister went, and then left, and then you later went into replacing.
Of course. And so we programmed ourselves to participate in various programs sessions at different times. Of course, there was a period where the Ghana Energy Day, 3 of us had to be there, and my colleague Oreku stayed in Ghana to take care of business. And when we finished the vote on the 7th, I stayed, and my minister had to return because he had other engagements. And so
I think
that's
really one of the things that we need to understand is that at the core of this COP conversation is the fact that global carbon emissions are increasing, and there's a greater conversation to ensure a certain reduction. I find it extremely curious that a government that will put such numbers for COP at the same time will be issuing licensing for companies to mine in forest reserve. And we do know that the forest usually operates as the global carbon sink. And so anybody who is mindful without a talk should be putting in pragmatic actions that will ensure that there's a certain greater benefit we'll get from our forest. Regrettably today, the conversation is that major mining, forest areas have become avenues for mining activities. Maybe we should reduce the talk, we should reduce the conferences, and focus on the pragmatic steps that are required to ensure that we really fit into the global conversation on carbon emission and the associated issues.
Well, that said, good morning to you, Dine Apple.
But is it
is your birthday today. I wish you all the best. Now let's go to the former president and then get an insert to kickstart our discussion.
Ghana is in need of rescue. Where we have reached, we need an experienced hand to come and put Ghana back on track. And NDC has been in charge of this country before. And you saw what happened when NDC was in office. Infrastructure was going on. The economy was growing. People were able to get food to eat 3 times a day. Today, if you get food to eat once a day, you are lucky. So many of you do 010 or 100 or 001. And so we have the opportunity in 2024, and that is the beauty of democracy. Every 4 years we have the opportunity to change our government if we are not happy. And certainly this government has failed. The Ghana that we handed over to them, they've not been able to look after it. And it's time for us to use our thumbs and tell them to go in peace, so that we can hold them accountable, and for a new government to come, an experienced government, to be able to put Ghana back on track. I have that experience. I've been president of Ghana before. You have all seen the work I did when I was president, and I know that come 2024, 7th December, inshallah, by the grace of God, NDC will win the election.
And Aduji, he's been saying this, and of course, when he was saying this, when we were playing the inserts, Mr. Mensah was here laughing, smiling. The contention is whether he has a man or doesn't have the man. On what benchmark is he saying this?
Thank you so much. And I think consistent time had just vindicated H.E. John Dramani Mahama. In 2016, when Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia was parroting all over the place, when a certain imagery was created of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia as the economic messiah, the person with a magic wand that once it touches the economy, there will be lower rate of exchange rate, lower inflation, among many other indicators that were known for, time today has demonstrated that we just voted for a talkative who does not have what it takes to transform the economy. Now, what H.E. John Dramani Mahama is basically saying is that if you pick the major indicators as far as the economy is concerned, on every score, the record of the Akufo-Addo-Bawumia administration is abysmal. In fact, for the purposes of examination, you call it a failed government, no doubt. And if you look at the numbers, I just want to start simply with inflation. By the time the NDC left office, inflation was 15.4%. Today, by 2020, inflation had risen to 54%. At that time, we were only better than Sudan and Zimbabwe. Sudan and Zimbabwe. It had never happened in 34 years. That is the kind of record we are talking about. Now, when you pick unemployment, and every young man watching me is interested in the unemployment rate, what can we do to ensure that our people are better off? If you look, as of 2016, the unemployment rate was 8.4%. Today, we are doing 13%. So if you pick number to number, lending rate, and which for me is very important, by the time the NDC left office, we were doing our lending rate almost 25%. Today, it's in the region of 38% to 45%. What it simply means is that if you're a Ghanaian businessman and you needed to go to the bank for a loan facility, you are required at the end of every month to make due 38%. And so when you look at our productivity, what is resulting in productivity going down is simply because businessmen are unable to go to their respective banks to take money to reinvest into their businesses. If you have to go to the banks in order to take a loan, the net effect is that you have to cough up. So capital has become extremely expensive under the Akufo-Addo administration. Now, what is even more worrying is the issue of our budget deficit. Leaders must demonstrate what is called self-restraint.
Meaning what?
In 2016, John Dramani Mahama had an election to contest. He could have simply gone to the Bank of Ghana to say, Bank of Ghana, give me money for the purposes of an election or winning an election. He demonstrated self-restraint. So by the time he left office, he did a budget deficit of 6.1%. That record has not been, the Akufo-Addo administration in 7 years has not been able to meet this 6.1% record. Now, what is even important is that if you compare the two elections, 2016 and 2020, by the time Akufo-Addo finished the 2020 election, he had done a budget deficit of 15.7%, reckless election spending. He had never, 15.7%, recklessly. And you know what they did? They decided to use COVID money and shed the COVID money like granite.
What do you mean by that?
Look, the Auditor General appointed by Akufo-Addo himself, Mr. Johnson Esiama, decided upon the IMF criteria to audit the COVID funds.
You mean the special audit report?
The special audit report. The special audit report established beyond doubt, and this is not a dome-level report. This is not an NDC audit report. It is an audit report done by the auditor appointed by Akufo-Addo. The Auditor General found, and that finding has not been challenged by anybody in NPP, that 500 million Ghana cedi of COVID money was spent outside the Give Me system. Why would any finance minister, why would any government spend money outside the Give Me system to steal, to appropriate dishonestly? That can only be the explanation, because the Give Me system is to provide a platform for transparency. So why would the government run away from the Give Me system? And remember that Give Me is a platform for the finance ministry itself. They spent 500 million outside that system. Even interestingly, the NPP women, vice chair for Northern Region, that was their parliamentary candidate for, say, the Sagnarigu constituency, Madam Felicia Tete, when provoked by his own party person, said, look, I was given 100,000 Ghana cedis, and that NPP parliamentary candidates, 275 of them, each one of them had 100,000 Ghana cedis. Constituency executive had 10,000, regional executive 15,000. So Ghana's money was shared like toffee during Christmas, like Christmas confetti. That's basically what they did with government.
What do you mean by it was shared by toffee? Because we were told.
What work did Madam Felicia Tete do to merit 100,000 just because she's an NPP parliamentary candidate? That's not how public funds are supposed to be spent. What work did constituency executives of the NPP do for this republic to merit 10,000, 15,000 Ghana cedis? So if you look at the numbers, what we're basically saying is that in an election year, whereas John Mahama would demonstrate a certain self-restraint to keep our numbers within what is acceptable, the Akufo-Addo administration, with the benefit of over 21 billion Ghana cedis of COVID money, decided to what? Basically spend the money without anything. You know what? When the special audit, when the finance minister appeared before and spoke to the issue of the audit, you know what he said? He said the bulk of the money was used for budgetary support. When you ask him what exactly, he said he used part of the money for District Assembly Common Fund. Meanwhile, we know that in Ghana by law, a certain percentage of total revenue is allocated to the District Assembly Common Fund. So how in God's name do you come and tell me that COVID fund is what you use for your District Assembly Common Fund? You know what? Key indicator, the exchange rate. At the time John Dramani Mahama left office, The exchange rate was a little above 3.8, almost 4 cities. And this had been corroborated by the last, the MPP presidential aspirant, Kennedy Japan, where Kennedy Japan says that today he, as a businessman, with exchange rates roving between 12 to 13%, he's having to spend more, contrary to the claim by Dr. Mahama Bawumia that when in doubt, observe the exchange rate. What has happened to that mantra? When was the last time you heard Dr. Mahama Bawumia speak to the exchange rate?
You having the explanations that because we had difficulties with the world economy, COVID and Ukraine, all affected Ghana's economy as well as
in fact, if you check the numbers, COVID was actually a blessing to this government, because COVID enabled this government to go to the IMF and pull over $2 billion, the special drawing right of $1 billion, the IMF rapid credit facility of another $1 billion, $2 billion, $430 million. Now, because of COVID, they went to Parliament and got Parliament to give them a waiver or an approval to use $200 million from the stabilization fund. That has been the benefit of COVID. Now, when you ask them, they say COVID resulted in a $14 billion reduction in our total revenue. Meanwhile, you got $33 billion. So, assuming that even COVID resulted, okay, in a reduction in your revenue for the year 2020, the same COVID gave you 33 billion Ghana cedis. So if you net it, COVID has been a benefit to you. The only thing is that you were extremely reckless. You were reckless in the sense that, and I'll demonstrate something to you right now. Look, I have with me the record of the borrowings that Akufo-Addo administration did, even on the Eurobond market alone. By 2017 April, they had gone for 2.25 billion from Franklin Templeton. By 2018, they now moved to the Eurobond market alone. In the space of 4 years, the Akufo-Addo administration borrowed from the Eurobond market alone $11 billion. And this $11 billion borrowed is more than the Eurobond taken in 16 years, Kufuor, Mills, Mahama combined. If you put the two separate administrations in 16 years, the Eurobond they took was $3.5 billion. NDC, $3.5 billion. President Kufuor, $750 million. If you put together in 16 years, that's how much. But just in 4 years, Akufo-Addo Bawumia, together with Ken Ofori-Atta, went for $11 billion in Eurobond alone. If you add the Franklin Templeton bond to it, that is $13 billion in the space of 7 years. How reckless can you be? And do you know what motivated the Eurobond, the insatiable need for Eurobond? Greed.
What do you mean by greed?
Greed.
Because we need a balance of payment support.
No. You know,
that's what the finance minister did say before.
Please, the record in Parliament to show, and in fact, I want to congratulate the MP for Kankwe North, Teresa Winnie. She asked the finance minister to come and provide the breakdown of Eurobonds. And not only the breakdown, but to also demonstrate if the finance minister or companies associated with him were benefiting from the Eurobond. It turned out that the finance minister's company, Data Bank, was advising him. Can you look at the scenario? So on this program, right, the New Day program, you are the host. You do live streaming. Then your own company now provides data to, Media General in order to do your live streaming. So what we were thinking that was an economic decision was rather a personal decision to benefit. And nobody in the NPP has been able to rebut the claim about the finance minister benefiting. And when you say this, but the finance minister is no longer the manager of Data Bank. You see, under the Companies Act,
he's not holding a directorial position.
Sure. The Companies Act says that a shareholder must provide what is called the beneficial owners. You know what the finance minister did? When he was leaving Data Bank, he set up a holding company offshore, which holding company offshore controls his shares for him. And that shares is in Data Bank. So every time they declare dividend, it goes directly to him.
As a shareholder.
As a shareholder. So,
but he'd been a shareholder of the bank before holding the director.
No, it matters not. The most important thing is that anytime he goes to borrow, his own company advises him and he pays his own company. And strangely, if you look at the LI, the Public Financial Management Regulation, it provides who should make a determination as to how much should be paid. So the finance minister, beyond using his public office for private gain, was directly conflicted in some of the decisions as to how much commission.
You're saying that he put himself in a conflict of interest.
And so that is why John Dramani Mahama is saying.
He's saying that he has a man.
We have the man. Today, when Bahamian in Cape Coast said, look at the MPP economic management team. What a solid team. That solid team is what has brought Ghana on its knees. For the first time in the history of this country, we have defaulted almost a year in servicing our public debt. It's never happened.
But there should be good reasons, right? The explanations have been coming in constantly from emissaries of government, including you. But here, the former President John Dramani Mahama is challenging that we have the men mantra or syndrome that cannot hold after all.
Well, I disagree with him entirely. And I'm sure you yourself do disagree with him. Because it is surprising that any time that they get the opportunity to speak to a matter that has been raised by their flag bearer, the former president, they don't get to speak to the issue, but rather turn their focus on His Excellency the Vice President, Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. It tells you something, that they see him as the real threat to their potential of ever coming into government again. And let me say
I don't understand.
Dr. Bawumia, but you asked him a simple question. Former president says you have the men. Tell us what it is that he has that should convince the people of Ghana, essentially. And he went on the tangent of reading some data, making reference to Bawumia, saying that he was a talkative and all sorts of things, right? So I'm saying that, you see, sometimes I don't know whether Mr. Mahama believes in all sincerity the description that he attributed to Ghanaians that will have short memory. Maybe he does, because otherwise the kinds of statement that he made yesterday should not be coming from him. He's been president before. We saw and heard him. Let me give you a few of the kinds of statements that he made when the economy was challenged. He said, for example, that economic turbulence is temporary. This was when he was president. He says Ghanaians complain too much, right? Forget, Ghanaians insult me when angry with their wives and husbands. 24th May 2016. Doomsaw not over. That we'll deal with it another day. State can't employ every graduate. 13th October 2014. Toughen up. Mahama says over fuel price hikes. 13 January 2016. Ghana's problems will take time to be fixed. 6th July 2016. This was after he had been vice president for 4 years between 2009 and 2012 and had been president for 4 years. In July of 2016, he was telling Ghanaians he did not encounter any global economic crisis of significance. Okay, in fact, the economic crisis that Mr. Mahama presided over, he attributed to difficulty in China. He couldn't do it.
What couldn't he do?
Why? What I read to you didn't hear. That Ghana's problems will take time to fix. You didn't hear me. This is Mr. Mahama speaking now. And this is 8 July 2016. We are not out of the woods. economic crisis, 6th October 2014, stop the purposeless lamentations and self-pity, 6th March 2015. This is the track record of the man who says today he has the men. It's interesting that once again Eduji makes reference to Dr. Bawumia. For the record, Dr. Bawumia has not been president of this country before. He has not. He's been vice president for 2 terms. And of course, he supported the vision of His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Nobody in this government is denying the fact of our present economic difficulties. It's a reality. We all live it. But what's the solution? And we have articulated what it is that caused us to get to where we are. There's no dispute that when we came into government, we had significant challenges with our banking sector. That government had to find resources by way of debt to resolve that problem. There's no dispute that when we came into government, this country had huge challenges in the energy sector. The debt component alone that we inherited. In fact, to date, we still haven't finished paying for it. Right? Government had to borrow to deal with that. Those were underlying conditions that COVID then compounds. It's a reality.
The banking challenge and then...
Yeah, you needed to deal with it. Absolutely. There were conditions that you had to deal with. You borrowed huge sums of money to deal with that problem in the run-up to the period before COVID. That's the reality. COVID then comes, a global pandemic that has impacted every economy across the world. Of course, its impact on Ghana is different than its impact on Togo, Burkina Faso, or Ivory Coast, our immediate neighbors. Because every country's own internal challenges would result in how you respond to COVID. So we've committed that, look, we are where we are. We've gone through a difficult process of debt exchange. Because remember that this so-called debt that he makes reference to in terms of borrowing, we can do the analysis between the period when President Kufuor left office, our total debt of $9 billion equivalent, okay, and where they took it to, in the region of some 36 or so billion, right, and where it is today. And we can do the analysis, the computation, the exchange rate analysis and how it gets to 600 billion and who has how much of that debt. It's total debt of Ghana. NPP has contributed to that. The government of Mr. Mahama contributed to it. The president
how
of
much? Can you say you want to do that?
I said we can get into it. That's not the focus of my discussion this morning. We'll get many opportunities to do an analysis of our debt, okay? Because I've said, I believe I was on this show with Mutala, that if you look at the exchange rate at the time that Mr. Mahama was in government and you compare it to the 24 or so billion debt that he contracted in addition to what he and Mr. Late Professor Mills inherited, right? That took us to about 120 billion then.
9 billion to 120.
No, I mean, the 9 billion was almost equivalent to $9 billion, no? Because at the time, the exchange rate was almost 1-to-1.
You mean after the
yes,
devaluation?
They took it to 120 billion Ghana cedi. But the dollar component was from 9 to 36 or so. So they added in excess of some $25 billion to our debt between the period that they were in government. Put it at the exchange rate today and deduct it from the 600 and you will see where it is that, but that argument is not for today. We'll make it. There's no problem at all. But I'm saying that these are the challenges that we have faced as a government. Now we are saying that, look, Ghanaians should keep faith with us.
What was the debt when government came in at 2017?
In CD terms or dollar terms?
CD terms.
It was 120.
Okay. And then the dollar at the time was 4.2?
4.8, 4.9, yes.
Okay. And then you want us to do the computation in today's dollar terms.
But of course, that debt in dollar terms hasn't changed.
The exchange rate.
It's the exchange rate that has changed. And so that's the interesting thing about our debt. We report it in cedis, right? Bank of Ghana.
But you now want to do dollars?
No, not a problem. I'm just saying to you that if you borrow in dollar, it's a dollar debt. So your debt at every point in time is a function of your exchange rate that you can use to acquire the dollar to pay.
That's my economics metrics.
That's all. That's all the point.
That's how you want to go about the computation.
Well, that's the fact. Okay, and you can choose to use any other matrix. But I'm saying that your debt component at every time, so that today, even if you don't borrow $1 more on your debt and the exchange rate changes, your debt profile will change. Why? Because it's a direct function of your exchange rate at every point. And so if you want to desegregate it and see what the reality is, you recall that Dr. Mahama had always said that, look, if you want to see the reality of how our debt profile is, compare the dollar at the time of borrowing. You remember? But that said, I'm saying we are where we are. We are in a challenged economy. We are working to resolve it. Now things are moving in the right direction. Inflation has dropped significantly. The exchange rate has seen some stability, depreciated by some 4% since February to date. We are not there yet, but this is a country that today as we speak, we are on the right path. Now, if you have the former president who's been president before, who during his time, okay, we all saw the challenges that we went through, such that in 2016, Ghanaians booted him out with the highest vote ever recorded in our electoral history.
Based on what metrics?
Turning around today to say that he has the men and that if he comes, fuel prices are going to do what? He told Ghanaians when he was president that if you cannot afford the fuel prices, take Trotro. Or you've forgotten?
He did that.
You want me to quote him?
When?
Give you?
When?
Oh, no, don't worry. I'll give you the evidence. I'm not going to do the Kofi Tonto matter for you to go and come and after the fact. Oh, no, I'll give you the data. Okay? He said to Ghanaians. When he was president, I'll give you the
Trotro.
I will give you the
former
exact,
president said that.
No, hold on. I'll give you the exact date.
Go on while you find it.
His reference will be Daily Guide. I am very confident about it.
Daily Guide is not a newspaper in this country, right?
No, I'm saying that your reference.
Daily Guide is
Daily Guide is
No,
not a
I've
newspaper.
not said otherwise. Okay. Have I said otherwise? I say his reference.
Daily Guide is not a newspaper.
Please go on
in this
once you
country.
find it, okay?
Okay? Coming today to put himself out as if to say Ghanaians have not encountered his governance before and make statements that really, I find it really baffling that he has even the confidence to stand before Ghanaians. And we slept in darkness for 4 years under his watch. Not because we did not have generation capacity deficit. Because the fact is that between the period that we slept in darkness, there was sufficient enough generation capacity in this country. Our only problem was that we didn't have gas from Nigeria. And the plants could run on liquid fuel as alternatives. Because of the difficulty in our economic circumstances, he couldn't buy fuel to power our plants. We slept in darkness for 4 years. His solution was to add more capacity at take or pay rates, such that today, as of last month, the debt component in our energy sector, okay, in the region of some 1.3 billion, 35% of that is as a result of excess capacity payments that are due to the IPPs. So his credibility is in question. His competence is on the record. Ghanaians have encountered him, they know him, and I don't think that he has anything to offer. In any event, if the man who told us after 8 years in government in 2016 that the problems of this country would take time to resolve, he cannot turn around today when he can only contest for only a 4-year period to tell us that he is the one who can bring salvation to our economy. Clearly, that cannot be borne out by his own track record as president and the kinds of things that he did and the challenges that we're facing today. Look, only 2 days ago, I was having a conversation with some people, okay? Clearly in their minds that yes, economic challenges that we face real, But they would rather that the NPP is a government that is in power resolving it than Mr. Mahama, because they saw him and they knew what it is that they did. And I'm convinced that next year it will be an interesting year. We'll battle it out. Let's finish our internal reorganization.
Who is responsible for managing monetary policy as well as the fiscals?
It's government, Bank of Ghana government, yes.
Okay. So if we have the current exchange rate as it is, which has, of course, influence on how our debt has ballooned currently, who's supposed to be taking responsibility for it?
I haven't said it's not government who's to take responsibility. All I'm saying to you that the fact...
So you agree that it is government?
Hold on. Yes, of course. Why not? Okay. I don't have any difficulty. And how the exchange rate is managed, it's a function of several factors. All I'm saying is that...
So government added excess of 400 billion on the 120 billion because of poor management of the exchange rate.
All I'm saying to you...
It's a question.
All I'm saying to you is that your debt at every point in time...
You haven't answered my question.
We can have the exchange rate debate. I don't have a difficulty at all, because it is indeed the case that our currency has depreciated. That's why we introduced a policy to stop the bleeding. That has largely worked by way of the gold for oil policy. Okay? So we can have that debate. But I'm saying that when you hear Eduji and co sitting on radio or TV to say that government has overborrowed, when in fact the debt is a function of the exchange rate and not necessarily physical cash that you've gone to a lender to go and collect, it's important that we let the good people of this country appreciate that fact. We can have a debate on whether the management of the exchange rate has been poor or not, and so by reason of that, if the debt has gone up, you ought to blame the current administration. I don't have any difficulty in engaging in that discourse with you at all. But the fact of the matter is that your debt component at every point in time is a function of the exchange rate.
And now, Eduji, why you bring this one in? In 2014, Dr. Baumia in his lecture, that popular lecture on the CD, this says, government should, as a matter of policy and agency, significantly cut down on borrowing for now. The government should also anchor fiscal policy on a debt reduction target, immediately announced it. But he also goes on to say additional 1 billion borrowing from the capital market should be shelved. But we also do know, if you look at what the statistics do indicate from 2017, we've borrowed excessively 3 billion from 2017, 2.5 billion, each of those years up to 2020, to the point that we have a period of payback of even in excess 4 decades, 40 years, 41 years. What do you say to that, as you add to that point?
So you see, first of all, let me correct a few issues. He is a deputy minister of energy, and I'm surprised at the level of misinformation. The fact that you have a generation capacity does not translate into available capacity. He knows it. So, for instance, Akosombo Dam has a generation capacity of over 1,000 megawatts. But ask him, in the last 10 years, has Akosombo Dam done even 700 megawatts before? Definitely not. So he doesn't even understand what he doesn't even talk. He doesn't even understand what he's talking about. Bui Dam is supposed to have about 300 megawatts. Bui Dam has never done 300 megawatts from the time it was done. So when you sit on national television as Deputy Minister of Energy and you parrot this level of misinformation, it can only be deliberate and mischievous.
Just recently, even the IPPs were cutting.
How can you even say this? So if you have generation capacity, why were you rushing to go and pay Suno as ugly? Why didn't you rely on the so-called generation capacity? I mean, sometimes, look, let's appreciate that the people who are watching you are knowledgeable. But you see, even more important is that he talks about excess capacity take or pay. Akufo-Addo, his boss, the Tema LNG project is a take or pay. They just extended the contract for AXA, take or pay.
That's false.
Take or pay. And they were deceiving us that it is take and pay. It is not. I said Tema LNG is a take or pay contract, which is record. Why are we doing this? So when they claim that, and you see, there's something that John Mahama does, the level of vision that man has. When he became president, we've had what is called the legacy debt within the energy sector. And one of the ways that this legacy debt comes is that you buy the power in dollars, you sell to people in CD. So by the time you are done, there's foreign differential losses. The President John Dramani Mahama went to Parliament and got ESLA passed. Today, as we speak, ESLA had given these people in excess of 20 billion Ghana cedis. Do you know what they've done with ESLA? They use ESLA to go as a collateral to go for bonds. Now ESLA has become a mess. The cash water force system is a mess. As I speak to you, Gridco staff have issued a statement, the union, that they want government to use the cash water force system, and that if they are not paid, we will have done so by Christmas. It's a matter of public record. That is an area that he's a deputy minister. I'm surprised you will churn out this falsehood. But you see, the most significant thing, and I want the public to bear me out, if you want to appreciate the vision of a leader, it is the legacy he leaves, the funds he leaves. By the time John Mahama left office, we left $270 million in the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund. They have squandered it. In fact, Akufo-Addo gave part of the money to the in-law, Mr. Dr. Nyantechi, who is on the board of Bank of Ghana. Our First Lady's sister, the husband, Dr. Nyantechi, to go and build a Puma Hotel at the airport city. The Ghana Infrastructure Fund.
What do you mean, the tax waiver that were given to the NDC?
No, beyond the tax waiver, money were given to him from Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund. What John Mahama did was to establish the sinking fund. $250 million. Stabilization fund had $274 million. That is what the NPP used when COVID came. So by the time John Mahama left office, he left close to $1 billion for this government with ESLA and all those funds. When they came to power, they introduced the Capping and Realignment Act, took get fund money. All the useful funds that you can use to run the economy.
You mean the funds that were securitized?
They were all securitized, as we speak today. But even more bizarre is his analysis on our debt, public debts. Have you seen where he was going?
Yeah, I think the argument he's making is that you have to do the computation based on the current exchange rates.
Imagine? I left you a public debt.
Retrospectively.
I left you a public debt at 4 cedis, 4 cedis to $1. Now you have mismanaged the economy, taking the dollar to now 13, cedis to $1, and then you are doing this voodoo economics. This completely voodoo. It doesn't accord with economic sense. How do you go back and now use the current exchange rate as the basis to analyze John Mahama's public debt? Look, and one thing that Ghanaians need to take care of is that, look, by the time John Mahama left office, every Ghanaian owed 3,700 Ghana cedis. You and I, together with him, we owe individually 3,700 Ghana cedis. Today, as we speak, do you know how much you owe? 18,000 cedis. 18,000 because of the mismanagement by the Akufo-Addo administration. Recently, the respected economist, Kwan Pieni, did a program, I think, at UPSA. And he did a very fantastic analysis.
Last week.
Yeah, just last week. A fantastic analysis with our exchange rate. He said, look, workers' pension of 2 billion Ghana cedis, workers' pension of 2 billion Ghana cedis, because of the depreciation of the cedi, that 2 billion Ghana cedis had reduced in value to 800 million Ghana cedis. That is the level of your incompetence. That is the cost of your incompetence. Their incompetence has a cost. Because today, Ghanaian workers who think that they have 2 billion Ghana cedis investment waiting for them, by reason solely of the cedi depreciation, that amount had reduced to 800 million. And you want to talk about competence? Have you noticed that when you put him to street proof, that he should show evidence where Mahama said you should go and use straw? He's been searching since.
Oh, I found it.
He's been searching since. And you see, what is even more curious is that these are friends in NPP. They have no respect for the intelligence of Ghanaians. He's talking about John Mahama. If the NPP, Akufo-Addo government, have any respect for Ghanaians, you will not be introducing John, what's the name? Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia as your candidate. And I have said on this platform, that candidature is a test of our national sanity. It is like going to check whether Ghanaians really think well. This is a man who today cannot even stand by the very words that he used whilst in opposition.
Which are the words?
When in doubt, observe the exchange rates. All the fanciful talks. The exchange rate will expose you. What has happened? When was the last time you heard Dr. Bawumia talk about the economy? He will not do that because it is going to expose him. Now he talks about the fact that, oh, the banking sector cleanup is what has created a problem. You came and met a 9 billion Ghana cedi problem. The bank said they needed 9 billion and they would be good to go. You took a reckless political decision, in some instances vindictive, to teach people political lessons. What is it? Even companies that are going through criminal prosecution, you saw it at the basis. He is a lawyer. He knows the presumption of innocence. Unless, of course, the government knows the outcome of the Opuni trial.
You're talking related to some of...
Unless the government of Akufo-Addo already knows what the judge will be saying in the Opuni trial. They went ahead, based on that trial, to revoke the banking license of Heritage Bank. Now they are telling us that they have spent 25 billion Ghana cedis in solving a 9 billion problem. How prudent are you? You are wicked. You are reckless. The waste, the recklessness is what has brought the economy on its knees.
Not COVID, Russia, Ukraine.
What COVID, Russia, Ukraine? I've done an analysis for you here that they claim that the revenue loss was 14 billion. Meanwhile, COVID gave you 33 billion. So if you are telling me that Russia, Ukraine is the problem, and in the case of Bawumia, Parliament benchmarked crude oil price at $85 per barrel, right? Within 4 months of the presentation of the budget, crude oil prices fell from $85 to $40. At that time, when John Dramani Mahama said this is going to result in significant revenue shortfall, you know what Bawumia said? He said, what do we mean? Did the crisis leave Ivory Coast and come to only Ghana? Today, as we speak.
And that insert is available.
Yes, we can play.
All right. So,
did COVID, Russia, Ukraine affect only Ghana? To the point that today, inflation in Ukraine is lower than inflation in Ghana. Where the bombs are falling, inflationary rate there is lower than that of Ghana.
Okay.
And you want us to buy
Mr.
this
Japamesa,
and bull story?
at the end of the day,
So on
it
13
looks...
January 2016, Mr. Mahama, the attribution that I made, and you can check online and you will see it.
Check online.
Oh yeah, you can
Which
check.
attribution?
That if you think the prices of fuel prices are too high, park your cars and take short.
Where is it?
I've given you the date.
13 January. Give me the insert, wherever you are saying it from.
Joy FM. Joy News.
You see, Ejapa.
Use short if fuel prices is too high.
Which newspaper?
Mahama tells Ghana. The New Statesman.
Look.
Why?
The New Statesman.
See.
I told you that there's something suspicious about this.
Have you seen a rebuttal from them?
He's giving himself.
Have you seen a rebuttal from them? So that one there doesn't make it true, right? You sit here and say because you haven't heard a rebuttal from the MPP, everything that has been said is true about statements that you make. Look, this talk about 9 billion problem, banking sector.
But that's what we're told.
Who told you that?
The asset quality report and all of those
show
things
us
were
the
there.
copy. Look, I've read the document. The problem evolved in 2013. So if it was a 9 billion problem, why didn't Mr. Mahama solve it between 2013 and 2016?
But the Bank of Ghana was
asking you a question.
Was giving support to some of the banks.
And what did they use it? Wait, they gave them liquidity support. What did they use it for? You've read the Boldest report.
I've gone through, yes.
He has the audacity to talk of Christmas.
The shareholders and directors
and what did they do
misapplied.
with it? And what did they do with it?
Misapplied some of
what
the
did
funds.
Mr. Mahama's government do? In fact, some of those funds, right, the liquidity support that was given to one bank was used to capitalize a new bank, and Mr. Mahama's government issued a banking license to that entity. 9 billion problem.
Is it the Bank of
Where
Ghana?
is it?
Is it the Bank of Ghana that issues the licenses? Or?
Oh, so today is Bank of Ghana.
But it's not the Bank of
I'm
Ghana.
asking you, today is Bank of Ghana. The monetary policy that you asked me here, who manages it? That you don't know. Conveniently. That you don't know.
I am asking you.
You are asking the question. You make attributions. And I'm asking you.
And I'm asking you
So you know it's Bank of Ghana?
Who issues licenses?
I'm asking you, you know it's Bank of Ghana?
Who issues licenses?
And how then is it the case that Bank of Ghana's issue, you attribute it to the Akufo-Addo government? How? Yet when I do the same, you tell me that it's Bank of Ghana.
At the end of the day,
you know the distinction between Bank of Ghana and government. But let me make my point.
Is it not true that such decisions would have to be taken in tandem with those who manage fiscal policy?
Let me make my point.
Because that's monetary policy, and then we have fiscal policy.
I am challenging anybody to show us that document, so-called, which said that the banking sector issue was a 9 billion problem. Because nothing of that sort exists. So nobody can show it to us. The reality is that asset quality test was done when you were in government in 2013 at the instance of the Bank of Ghana. You knew the problems. You knew that 8 or 9 banks were on the verge of collapse. Your solution was to give money to people who chopped it like it was their personal pocket money. You sat and looked on. Now, when we come into government, this has become a bigger problem and you needed to deal with it. Can you imagine if government has sat unconcerned for all the Ghanaians who had deposits in this bank to have lost their deposit? Can you even imagine the consequences of any such action? Look, you talk of Dr. Bawumia being afraid of the economy and look, the fact of the economy and the exchange rate being a determinant of the performance of your economy. It's not in doubt. It was true when Dr. Bawumia said it then, when you were in government, and it's true today. But for that, we wouldn't go to the IMF. And how and why did we go to the IMF? We had a challenge. We said we were going to use our internal mechanism to resolve it. The Parliament of the Republic of Ghana, aided by your members in Parliament, breached the law. Section 22 of the Public Financial Management Act, which enjoined Parliament to do 3 things before 31st December of every financial year. Approve the budget, pass the appropriations, and every other revenue measure that was required to implement the budget. These nation records approved the budget, passed the appropriation, which was the authorization to spend, and turned around and said that I'm not going to authorize you by way of passing revenue measures that will enable you raise the revenue to fund the budget. What happened? There was a run on the cedi. Investors pulled out their investment from Ghana. We all saw the consequences of that recklessness by Parliament aided by your members. And the consequences was that the revenue measures failed, our economy and our currency took a hit, significant hit, and so government had no choice than to go to the IMF. Nobody is running away from that. But when you were in government, what precipitated your having to go to the IMF? It's of no consequence. And you say that
please,
wait. Can you allow me to make my point?
When they went to the IMF,
if you say that selecting Bawumia, Dr. Bawumia,
shouting will not solve
I'm not shouting. You are not allowing me to make my point.
No. We use a mic. A mic. It's not
so
how you shout that.
Allow me to make my point. Because if you are saying that I will speak with my regular tone. Otherwise, then I get
speak your
agitated.
Regular tone. So you are saying that at the end of the day, both government went to the IMF.
Let me make my point.
Okay. So in going to the IMF, did they also do
Roland,
exchange rate?
If this is how you're going to conduct your show, I don't think that you ought to invite me to come here.
No, seriously, I'm asking
because
you.
If I'm making my
so
point, but you asked me a question, I'm providing you an answer.
Yeah, so you said they all went to IMF, and I'm saying
you are only diverting me. Please.
I'm diverting you. How?
Allow me to make my point.
Did they all do a DDE?
When he is speaking, you had.
What was a DDEP then?
If we have an economic challenge and we are working to resolve it, bear in mind the debt that is being
pension bond holders had difficulties, etc. I'm asking you.
The debt that is being restructured is not.
Even the external debt we haven't gotten, the Paris Club as well as China's
your
agreement.
viewers will be the judge.
All right, please report.
Whether you allow me to make my point when you ask me the question, or you treat everybody else on your panel the same way.
No, it cannot be true. I treat you the same.
No, so please allow me to make my point.
Please make the point.
You asked me a question about DDEP, and I'm responding. DDEP is real. Yes, we've gone through it, and I sat here and said that it was a difficult exercise, but necessary. Restructuring our debt, it's not necessarily a bad thing. We are in economic difficulty, and we've said that look, if we do not restructure our obligations, the economy is going to run to a halt. And so we have gone through the exercise of doing a domestic debt exchange program to reprofile some of our obligations that we owe to our domestic debt holders. And we are working to do the external so that we can put the economy on a sounder footing to move it forward. Now, if Eduji Tamaklu says here that selecting Dr. Bawumia is a test of the sanity of Ghanaians, then he asks a better question to ask himself how the man who has been president before, who failed abysmally as a president, should be selected by his party to even come and ask Ghanaians for another mandate. Like I said, Dr. Bawumia has not been president before. He supported the vision of His Excellency, the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. We stand by our record. We have economic challenges. It's not in doubt. We are working to resolve it. But Mr. Mahama is a known quantity. Everybody in this country knows his track record. What are we talking about?
You know, interestingly,
just
30 seconds. Hold on.
I want to go to the students of the UK who are on government scholarship for which they haven't been paid their stipends. All of them, I dare say, have finished their schooling. They still haven't been paid their stipends, etc. So if we have them, but let's just also apprise you of the notices that they've been given by their various schools. For example, we have the Aberdeen University writing to some of the students who are on Ghana scholarship or Ghanaian scholarship who haven't paid the rest of their fees. We'll put that on the screen for you, and then we'll speak to some of them as it is. And also get to know what their concerns are, why the scholarship secretariat and the registrar who had spoken to us, or the director of scholarships who has spoken to us a couple of months ago, has still not been able to facilitate the payment of their stipends as well as the subsequent balance of the fees to the various universities. So if we have the one from the University of Aberdeen, we can put that on the screen, and then we'll be able to also start the discussion. But Eduji, you were saying?
You see, my learned senior says that when you oppose a tax policy because it did not make economic sense, and here e-levy. And listen, e-levy was a sole decision of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia at cabinet. And the reason is
what
that...
do you mean by that?
Yes.
How can a tax policy...
Yes. And this is what happened. You see, because the MPP had criticized Mahama when he went to the IMF, and Bawumia did a lecture on... He said the IMF with the ankle holder, something, one of the lectures. So when it became obvious from 2021, because we have been downgraded, and they needed to go to the IMF and the World Bank, do you know what they decided to do? That instead of going to the IMF, then let's impose e-levy. And Bawumia felt that going to the IMF was going to hurt his reputation, and therefore had to do a U-turn on e-levy.
He told you that?
No, because that's the record. And now you know the curious thing. So the NDC MP said, no, as for e-levy, it does not make sense because it's like taxing a check. It didn't make sense. So stop it. Now he says that when you oppose a tax policy, you are a nation wrecker. Ejapa, your boss, the man who signed your, what do you call it, your employment letter, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Then he's a senior nation wrecker.
What do you mean by that?
Is it not this man who opposed VAT?
Okay.
Two Ghanaians on the street to oppose value-added taxation. At that time, was he a nation wrecker? Today, value-added taxation is the main anchor of the management of the economy.
Please respond to that.
So what are you talking about?
I made reference to a specific law.
Which is what?
The Public Financial Management Law.
It's
Act,
breaching.
Section 22.
Yes.
And its provisions thereof, opposing the tax policy that you attribute to His Excellency the President, did not breach any law. I'm saying to you, wait.
Please.
The Public Financial Management Law Act says by the end of 31st December, pass the budget, pass appropriations, pass every revenue measure that will go to fund the budget. And it makes sense that if you have approved a budget, which has two sides, the revenue and the expenditure side, and you've gone ahead to approve the expenditure side, then it stands to reason that you expect the revenue side that will fund the expenditure to be approved. And so if you breach the law,
Kwesi Mensah in the United States says,
before you go,
Roland,
talk about Dr. Bamia not speaking on the economy. Only in April of 2022.
He hasn't been speaking on the economy.
April 2022, he gave a lecture on the economy at the Millennium.
I came to Ghana twice.
City in Kaswa.
He hasn't been.
The one that he peddled the first.
The event for the. He hasn't been speaking.
You know, the man says 17 billion was spent on takeoff.
Roland, please. And this is from Kwesi Mensah. He says, I came to Ghana twice and paid $150.
Then you change the narrative.
Now
you say the man is running away from the economy. I give you the Transforming Ghana, November 2nd, 2021.
We have students on Ghanaian scholarship, gentlemen. We have students on Ghanaian scholarship, and they haven't been paid their stipends for 9 months. And we are now getting information that some of the universities also insist that they are supposed to be paid. Balance of fees, and the government of Ghana has reneged on those payments. Students are stranded. Ghanaian students are stranded in the UK. Now, when you take the letter on the screen, the living expenses is supposed to be 12,276 per annum. So, breaking down to about £1,023 per month. They haven't been paid. And some of them have finished school, if not all of them have finished school. Now let's go to the next. If you go to the next. And then also there's one that says that the University of Aberdeen, where we have Ghanaian students on scholarship, is noting that a particular student, we've decided to take the name of, recently successfully completed a degree. However, we are unable to report your successful completion because we have been advised that there is outstanding debt on your student account. This means that you will not be eligible to apply for a graduate route or route visa. If you wish to apply for the graduate route visa, please ensure that you have cleared all your debts before your visa expires and before you leave the UK. Now, this debt is supposed to be paid by the government of Ghana. And the government of Ghana has not yet paid these students. Yes, they have completed school. And as a result of that, they cannot complete their university postgraduate completion procedures.
That's not what it is.
And then
the
also,
graduate route is a means to stay in the UK beyond your visa period.
Sure. So you need to apply for that, please. And then also some of the students, because they are not in a position to earn enough and continue to stay in the UK because they haven't got the applications right, are now getting letters issued to them, being final notices to vacate their rooms, etc. Now, this is a concern for some of these students have joined us anonymously, and then we'll be speaking to them. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Roland.
Good morning. Since the last time we had this interaction, how much are you owed by way of the stipends?
Well, myself, I've been paid just once since I came. And that was the stipend I was paid in January. And since January, I've not received anything. So if you add them together, it's about 10 months now. Yes. So almost 12 months now. So I've received just once.
So you are owed how much in sum then, in terms of the total that you are owed as a student on Ghanaian scholarship in the UK?
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. 3 weeks ago.
How much are you owed then, sir?
About 11,550.
So you're owed £11,550
Yes.
and still not paid. Now, from the letters that were perusing, I've seen a number of them, not all of them I can put on the screen. How is this a hindrance to you continuing to stay in the UK before you come back to Ghana?
Yeah, Roland, thank you. The challenge that we're facing now is, you see, the letter that you read from the school, it states that if you don't make that payment, you graduate, but you don't have your certificate. That is one. Two, they are not able to extend your visa for you, and that means your visa will be expiring. That is number two. And the last one, which is the most dangerous, I say, is that you cannot even leave UK because you are owing. And the thing is, one, your landlord is ejecting you from your room because you cannot pay. Two, you want to come home, but you don't even have money. You don't even have flight ticket to come. Three, even if you have the flight ticket, the government wouldn't allow you to come because you are owing the government. And four, even if the government allows you to leave UK, you don't have your certificate to come to Ghana to work. So what's the essence of you coming here? You don't have your certificate, you don't have anything. And you know, some of us, we had to take money from friends and families with the hope that when we come and receive our stipends, we can pay back the money to them when we received our scholarships in Ghana. Because of the stipends that was part of the package, we borrowed money from our friends and families as flight ticket and other, visa application fees and stuff, with the hope that when we come and receive our stipends, we can go back and pay them. When we came, some of the costs is such that you cannot work so much to earn anything. You are always in school. You go to class sometimes in the morning and you close in the evening, 4 p.m. How are you going to, and you have only 20 hours to work, a lot of assignment on you to work on. And Aberdeen is such that you don't have a number of, work jobs in Aberdeen. You don't have a number of jobs in Aberdeen. So those of us who are doing that courses, you can't get job to do. So you are only relying on your stipends and it's not coming. So how do you feed yourself? How do you pay your rent?
Now, do you have other students like you, and how are they managing then? What also are the promises you're getting from the Ghana High Commission desk that is responsible for making sure that you get your stipends, and then the fees are paid to the various universities that you're in?
Well, it's interesting. They issued us letters to our various hostel managers. One interesting thing, we took the letters to hostel managers. They saw the letters and they said, we cannot trust your government. This thing has been happening. We've been receiving these letters for a long time. They are not paying. And we cannot trust your government. So we are not taking these letters from them. And it was something funny. One student had to sneak out of Ghana. A PhD student, now he's in Ghana. He sneaked out. I don't know how he was able to make it to Ghana, but he sneaked out. He took a letter from Ghana High Commission to the student, to the school. And before I was there, when the administrator said, your government is rubbish. This is what the white man said. Your government is rubbish. You cannot accept this letter. I was there. I was listening to the white man. He said, your government is rubbish. You cannot accept this letter.
your leaders, have they spoken to Mr. Kingsley Ajiman, who has a scholarship secretariat in Ghana, and what has he been saying?
We had a meeting. You see, it's we always have a quarterly meeting. So in September, we had a meeting, and Dr. Kingsley came and promised that he had received some funds from government, from the office of the president, and they are going to prioritize how that funds is going to be disbursed. And they said that they are going to pay for fees. They were going to use the money to pay for the fees. And if there are still some remaining, they will use to pay those who are on, or those who are doing health-related courses. So we thought that, fine, okay, well, let's allow them to, pay the fees so that some of our colleagues can graduate. As you speak now, he promised in September.
So without that, you can't graduate. Is that the situation?
You have your graduation pictures. You go and you have all the pictures, but you can't have your certificate. It's not graduation. That is not graduation.
All right, we'll continue this tomorrow. All right. Aduji, what do you make of this? Just in a minute.
I can only plead with the scholarship secretariat to look at the plight of our compatriots outside and make the needed funding arrangement for them. It can actually be dehumanized. And in the UK, unlike in Ghana, where a landowner can give you respite, sometimes you'll be there and the land, the house is given to another person. So once you are there, someone is looking for it. And unlike our place where you take 2 years rent advance, sometimes it's just monthly out there. And so to go through this thing can be dehumanizing, especially with this cold weather. It can really be frustrating. More importantly, where you cannot also come down to Ghana immediately. So I will plead with duty bearers to make available funding to resolve this challenge ASAP.
All right.
I suppose this will be one of the very rare occasions that I will associate myself with the sentiments that my good friend Junior has expressed. Because many a time we disagree on issues. But of course, on a serious note, I think that government should do more. Okay, I know people personally who have benefited from government scholarships and are facing a lot of difficulty. It is not only in UK, okay, in the United States and other places. And I don't think that sending our citizens out there to go and learn some value addition to come and help in our development agenda and putting them through a situation where their fees and stipends are unpaid is not the best. And so I would add my voice to the many and ask the Scholarship Secretariat, the Ministry of Finance, to do all it can to ensure that these our compatriots are paid as soon as possible. Yeah.
You know, when he said it, then I remember the statement made by Honorable Samuel Kujeto. We have about $20 million to pay for a judgment debt that was completely unwarranted because of a family feud. Today, Ghana is having to pay that money.
It's an energy-related
No,
sector.
It was a family issue that today
I'm only also emphasizing that.
Yes,
well, thank you very much, the two of you. The two of you having agreed, having agreed on the issue. Okay, all right. Please, we still have cash out. Cash out goes with a short code *439#. And then also, we're encouraging you to make sure that you book your seats on the table for the 3FM All-White Party. It is on the day, the 28th of December. And we're talking about La Palma. Make sure that you go there and also enjoy yourself. Just in case your corporate bodies, please make sure that you put yourself together. Your neighbors, you can put yourself together, put your resources together and have a seat. And we're going to have Stoneboy, everybody else there for all of us to have some great time as well. And Kizito from Tema East constituency, you're saying the 24-hour economy is going to do the magic and bring back Ghana on track. We're not discussing 24 hours today. I see that he's laughing. Now, Black Sheriff's Zama Disco moves back to its old stamping grounds, and that's the La Palm Beach Hotel for an extraordinary experience. All purchase tickets remain valid. So you get your tickets via zamadisco.com, or you can also dial *714* 1000 hash, 3 zeros, okay? We can't wait to see you there. And Zama, and when it comes about Zama Disco, go to zamadisco.com and get the latest.